Here's a script crafted based on your instructions and the provided content. The hook, first 30 seconds, 40,000 feet and climbing. The P-51 Mustang, an already legendary fighter, was suddenly defying its design limits. A mechanic's mistake, deemed ridiculous by some, was about to unlock a high-altitude performance advantage that the Allies desperately needed. Before we dive into this incredible story of accidental genius, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss more amazing tales from WW2 Edit Records. Act 1. The Underdog versus the Impossible, the setup. The year is 1944. The air war over Europe has reached a fever pitch. The Luftwaffe, though battered, still fields formidable aircraft, especially at high altitudes. The Focke-Wulf 190 and the later models of the Messerschmitt Bf 109, equipped with advanced superchargers, could climb to altitudes where the P-51 Mustang struggled. This wasn't just about bragging rights, it was about survival. Allied bomber formations, the B-17s and B-24s, relied heavily on fighter escorts to survive the gauntlet of flak and enemy fighters on their bombing runs deep into Germany. Without adequate high-altitude cover, the bombers became sitting ducks. Enter Sergeant James "Jimmy" Reynolds, a mechanic stationed at a dusty airbase in England. Jimmy wasn't a pilot. He wasn't an engineer by formal training. He was a farm boy from Oklahoma who'd learned to fix tractors and cars. When the war came, he found himself wrenching on P-51 Mustangs, a machine far more complex than anything he'd ever touched. He was a good mechanic, meticulous, but by no means a genius. He just followed the manuals, did his job, and tried to keep the Mustangs flying. The P-51D Mustang was a marvel of engineering, no doubt. Its laminar flow wing gave it exceptional speed, and the Packard-built Merlin engine provided ample power, but it had its limitations. At altitudes above 30,000 feet, the Merlin started to lose power. The air thinned, and the engine struggled to breathe. German fighters, designed with high-altitude performance in mind, could often outclimb and outmaneuver the Mustangs at these critical altitudes, leaving the bombers vulnerable. The stakes were incredibly high. Each bomber lost meant 10 young men killed or captured. Each mission was a gamble, a desperate roll of the dice. The pressure on the fighter pilots and the ground crews who kept their planes flying was immense. Sleep was a luxury. Fear was a constant companion. The briefings were grim, the casualty lists were long. The whispers in the mess halls spoke of unsustainable losses, of the Luftwaffe regaining the upper hand. Jimmy felt the weight of it all. He saw the exhaustion in the pilots' eyes, the grim determination etched on their faces. He knew that his work, however mundane it seemed, was crucial. He was part of the chain, and if he failed, the whole mission could fail. He spent countless hours poring over manuals, double-checking connections, and ensuring every component was working perfectly. He was determined to do his part to keep those bombers safe. Little did he know that his dedication, combined with a simple, almost unbelievable mistake, would inadvertently rewrite the book on P-51 performance. Act 2. The Howter, the Secret, the Execution. It happened on a sweltering afternoon in July. Jimmy was tasked with performing a routine maintenance check on a P-51D assigned to the 357th Fighter Group. The specific task was related to the fuel system and the throttle linkage. The Mustang used a complex system of cables and levers to control the fuel-air mixture going into the engine. This mixture was critical for optimal performance at different altitudes. The pilot could adjust the mixture manually using a lever in the cockpit, but the system also had an automatic control that adjusted the mixture based on altitude. The manual was clear. Cable A connected to point X, cable B connected to point Y, but Jimmy, fatigued after working long hours in the relentless heat, made a mistake. In a moment of carelessness, he crossed the cables. Cable A, intended for point X, was connected to point Y, and vice versa. It was a simple error, easily overlooked. He finished the job, signed off on the maintenance log, and the plane was ready for flight. The next morning, Lieutenant Robert Tex Johnson, a seasoned pilot with dozens of combat missions under his belt, climbed into the cockpit of the Mustang Jimmy had worked on. Tex was a Texan through and through, laconic and unflappable. He ran through his pre-flight checks. Everything seemed normal. He taxied onto the runway, revved the engine, and took off. As Tex climbed, he noticed something odd. The engine seemed unusually responsive. It was pulling harder, climbing faster than he was used to. He glanced at his instruments. Everything appeared to be within normal parameters. He chalked it up to good maintenance, a particularly well-tuned engine. As he reached 30,000 feet, the altitude where the Mustang usually started to struggle, Tex expected the familiar drop in performance, but it didn't happen. The engine kept pulling, the Mustang kept climbing. He looked at his airspeed indicator. He was exceeding his previous maximum altitude by a significant margin. He pushed the throttle forward, and the Mustang surged even higher. He was now at 40,000 feet, an altitude he'd never reached in a Mustang before. The air was thin, the sky a deep, almost black blue. He could see for hundreds of miles. He felt like he was on top of the world. He radioed back to base, reporting his altitude and the unusual performance of his aircraft. There was a stunned silence on the other end. No one believed him. They suspected a faulty altimeter, a pilot error, but Tex knew what he was seeing, what he was feeling. The Mustang was performing beyond its design limits. He engaged a group of BF-109s that were harassing a crippled B-17. He outclimbed them, outmaneuvered them, and shot down two before they even knew what hit them. The German pilots were bewildered. They couldn't understand how a Mustang could operate at that altitude with that level of performance. Back at base, after Tex landed, the ground crews swarmed the aircraft. They checked the engine, the fuel system, everything. They couldn't find anything wrong. The aircraft performed flawlessly, exceeding its design limits. Word spread like wildfire through the squadron. Everyone wanted to know what was going on. Jimmy, overhearing the excited chatter, started to feel a knot of anxiety in his stomach. He remembered the crossed cables. He realized that his mistake, his careless error, might be the explanation for the Mustang's extraordinary performance. He confessed to his supervisor, expecting to be reprimanded, possibly even court-martialed. Instead, his supervisor, a grizzled old master sergeant, listened to his story with a growing sense of amazement. He realized that Jimmy's mistake, however unintentional, had inadvertently created a hack, a workaround that allowed the Mustang to breathe more efficiently at high altitudes. By swapping the cables, Jimmy had effectively recalibrated the automatic mixture control system. This allowed the engine to run leaner at high altitude, providing more power and improved fuel efficiency. The master sergeant, recognizing the potential of this accidental discovery, immediately reported it to his superiors. Engineers were dispatched to the airbase to study the modified system. They confirmed that the crossed cables were indeed responsible for the Mustang's improved performance. They meticulously documented the modification, analyzing the changes in fuel-air mixture and engine performance. The accidental modification was quickly implemented across the entire fleet of P-51 Mustangs. Pilots were briefed on the new capabilities of their aircraft. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Mustangs could now escort bombers to greater altitudes, providing more effective cover against the Luftwaffe. The losses of bombers decreased significantly. The tide of the air war began to turn decisively in favor of the Allies. Act 3. The resolution, the reward. The skies over Europe became increasingly dominated by the P-51 Mustang. The Luftwaffe, unable to counter the Mustang's high-altitude performance, suffered heavy losses. The Allied bombing campaign intensified, crippling German industry and infrastructure. The war in Europe was drawing to a close. Jimmy Reynolds, the farm boy mechanic who had accidentally unlocked the Mustang's hidden potential, was hailed as a hero. He received a commendation for his unintentional act of ingenuity. He became a symbol of the unsung heroes of the war, the mechanics and ground crews who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to keep the war machine running. Tex Johnson continued to fly missions in his supercharged Mustang, racking up an impressive tally of enemy aircraft destroyed. He became known as Tex, the high-altitude ace. He always made sure to thank Jimmy whenever he saw him, acknowledging the crucial role he had played in his success. After the war, Jimmy returned to Oklahoma, where he went back to farming. He never forgot his time in the Air Force or the accidental discovery that had helped to win the war. He occasionally told the story to his grandchildren, who listened with wide-eyed wonder. The legacy of Jimmy's mistake lived on. The P-51 Mustang, with its improved high-altitude performance, became one of the most iconic aircraft of World War II. It played a crucial role in securing Allied victory, and its legend continues to inspire awe and admiration to this day. The airbase, once a hive of activity, fell silent after the war. The Mustangs were shipped back to the United States or scrapped for their metal. The only reminder of the incredible story that had unfolded there was a small plaque commemorating the accidental discovery that had changed the course of the air war. It simply read, "Here, a ridiculous mistake made the impossible possible." What do you think was more important in this story? The stroke of accidental genius from a weary mechanic, or the open-mindedness to embrace the unexpected results and implement the change? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The plaque stood as a silent testament to the power of chance and the ingenuity born of desperation. But what if that accidental tweak, that crossed wire, hadn't been recognized? What if it had been dismissed as a fluke, a malfunction to be corrected and forgotten? The war, already a brutal grind, might have taken a different, darker turn. Think about it. The B-17s, those lumbering giants of the sky, would have continued to bleed men and metal at an unsustainable rate. The Luftwaffe, emboldened by its high-altitude advantage, might have regained a significant foothold in the skies over Europe. The invasion of Normandy, already a gamble of epic proportions, could have faced even fiercer resistance. The war, as we know it, might have stretched on for months, even years longer, costing countless more lives. The implications of Jimmy's mistake and its subsequent embrace ripple outwards like shockwaves, altering the course of history in ways we can only imagine. It's a sobering reminder that even the smallest act, the most insignificant error, can have monumental consequences, but the story doesn't end with the war's conclusion. The lessons learned from the P-51's accidental upgrade continue to resonate in the world of aviation, influencing aircraft design and engineering for decades to come. The understanding of fuel-air mixture, of high-altitude performance, of the delicate balance between man and machine was forever changed. Engineers began to explore the possibilities of variable geometry intakes, of more sophisticated fuel injection systems, of turbochargers and superchargers that could deliver optimal performance across a wider range of altitudes. They realized that pushing the boundaries of existing technology often required thinking outside the box, embracing the unexpected, and learning from mistakes. The P-51, once limited by its high-altitude performance, became a symbol of innovation and adaptability. It showed the world that even the most advanced machines could be improved, refined, and pushed beyond their perceived limitations. It was a testament to the power of human ingenuity, of the relentless pursuit of excellence, and of the willingness to embrace the unpredictable. But let's delve deeper into the technical aspects of what Jimmy inadvertently achieved. It wasn't just a simple matter of swapping two wires. The real genius lay in how that swap altered the engine's fuel-air mixture at different altitudes. To understand this, we need to understand how the P-51's automatic mixture control system was supposed to work. The system used a barometric sensor, a small bellows that expanded and contracted with changes in air pressure. As the aircraft climbed, the air pressure decreased, causing the bellows to expand. This expansion, in turn, moved a series of levers and cables that adjusted the fuel flow to the engine. The goal was to maintain a constant fuel-air ratio, ensuring optimal combustion at all altitudes. However, the system wasn't perfect. At high altitudes, the air became so thin that the engine struggled to draw in enough oxygen. The automatic mixture control system, designed to compensate for this, often overcompensated, leaning out the fuel mixture too much. This resulted in a loss of power, a decrease in engine efficiency, and a noticeable drop in performance. By swapping the cables, Jimmy effectively reversed the action of the barometric sensor. Instead of leaning out the mixture at high altitudes, the system now richened it. This meant that the engine was receiving a slightly higher proportion of fuel relative to air than it was originally designed to receive. At first glance, this might seem like a bad thing. A rich mixture can lead to inefficient combustion, increased fuel consumption, and even engine damage. But at the extreme altitudes where the P-51 was struggling, the slightly richer mixture provided a crucial boost in power. The extra fuel helped to compensate for the lack of oxygen, ensuring that the engine could continue to burn efficiently. It was like giving the engine a shot of adrenaline, a temporary surge of power that allowed it to climb higher, fly faster, and maneuver more effectively. The key to understanding why this worked lies in the concept of stoichiometry, the ideal ratio of fuel and air for complete combustion. In a perfect world, an engine would always operate at the stoichiometric ratio, extracting the maximum amount of energy from every drop of fuel. But in the real world, achieving perfect stoichiometry is incredibly difficult. Factors such as air temperature, humidity, and engine wear can all affect the combustion process. The automatic mixture control system was designed to compensate for these variations, but it could never achieve perfect stoichiometry under all conditions. By swapping the cables, Jimmy essentially introduced a deliberate deviation from the ideal stoichiometric ratio. This deviation, while technically a mistake, turned out to be beneficial at high altitudes, where the engine was already struggling to breathe. It's a bit like a doctor prescribing a slightly higher dose of medication to a patient who is particularly resistant to treatment. The higher dose might not be ideal under normal circumstances, but it can be necessary to achieve the desired therapeutic effect. The P-51's accidental upgrade was a similar case. The richer mixture wasn't ideal, but it was necessary to overcome the limitations of the engine at high altitudes. It was a hack, a workaround, a clever way to squeeze more performance out of an existing system. The engineers who studied the modified system quickly realized the significance of Jimmy's mistake. They meticulously analyzed the changes in fuel-air mixture, engine temperature, and exhaust gas composition. They ran countless simulations and flight tests to determine the optimal cable configuration for different altitudes. They discovered that the richer mixture not only improved high-altitude performance, but also reduced the risk of engine damage. The extra fuel helped to cool the engine, preventing it from overheating at high power settings. It also reduced the likelihood of detonation, a dangerous phenomenon that can occur when the fuel-air mixture ignites prematurely. The engineers also realized that the modified system could be further refined. They developed a new version of the automatic mixture control system that incorporated the lessons learned from Jimmy's mistake. This new system, known as the high-altitude modification, allowed pilots to manually adjust the fuel-air mixture based on altitude and engine conditions. The high-altitude modification was a significant improvement over the original system. It gave pilots more control over their aircraft, allowing them to optimize performance for different flight profiles. It also reduced the risk of engine damage, ensuring that the Mustangs could continue to fly mission after mission. The story of Jimmy's mistake is a reminder that innovation often comes from unexpected places. It shows that even the most mundane tasks can lead to groundbreaking discoveries. It highlights the importance of embracing failure, of learning from mistakes, and of always questioning the status quo. But it also raises a deeper question. Was Jimmy's mistake truly accidental, or was it a subconscious expression of his frustration with the P-51's high-altitude limitations? Was he, in some way, intuitively aware of the engine's needs, even if he couldn't articulate them in technical terms? It's impossible to know for sure. But the fact that Jimmy made the mistake in the first place, that he crossed those cables at just the right moment, suggests that there may have been more to it than mere carelessness. Perhaps his years of experience working on engines, his intimate understanding of their inner workings, had given him a sixth sense, an ability to perceive problems and solutions that others couldn't see. Whatever the explanation, Jimmy's mistake changed the course of the war. It transformed the P-51 Mustang from a capable fighter into a dominant force in the skies over Europe. It helped to secure Allied victory, and it cemented Jimmy's place in aviation history. And so, the story of the ridiculous mistake lives on, a testament to the power of human ingenuity, the importance of embracing the unexpected, and the enduring legacy of the P-51 Mustang. It's a story that reminds us that even the smallest act can have monumental consequences, and that sometimes the greatest discoveries are made by those who dare to challenge the impossible. What aspects of the P-51 Mustang's accidental high-altitude performance upgrade do you find most surprising or fascinating? Share your insights in the comments below.